Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this narration of the web novel Solo Apocalypse, taken from Royal Road. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 4. Something clattered loudly as my clone stepped into the room, a painful thud and a muffled, agonizing scream. "Get away from me!" There was a wide-eyed man sitting on the floor with bloodied bandages around him. He had his hand up, facing me, not in warning, but in threat. His hand was glowing ominously. Other peoples have powers too. I remembered thinking about it. Seeing it now, my mind backpedaled. He had black hair, brown eyes, and an honest face twisted with something between fear, horror, and pain. His leg was bleeding a lot. His hand came down to the grip of his thigh. "Feck," he whispered. Eyes squeezed tears as he haunched over. "Leave, man. I could blow you to pieces. I got nothing, so feck off." He groaned, trying to lift his hand. I moved without thinking. My clones were expendable, and he had no idea how to wrap a proper tourniquet or bandage himself. He needed both. One of me ripped the sheets from one of the beds until I realized that I had sterile cloth there. The other found the bandages. He watched me hesitantly, and I realized I hadn't said anything. My mind had worked overdrive. I'd been in emergency mode. "Relax, we're not here to hurt you," I said. The other me spoke on the other side of the room, rummaging through the cabinets. "You need to stop the bleeding." I found the material and paused. "Can we come closer?" I asked, eyeing his hand. With everything I'd seen actually getting blown to pieces, even pseudo-second hand wasn't an unbelievable prospect, nor was it attractive. He wavered for a moment and then groaned, cursing, before readjusting himself. "Fine. Anything sketchy and I'll blow your heads off." I helped him to the bed, my other self moving to stand watch outside. It was heavier than he had any right to be. It only took a moment to realize that it wasn't it. I was weaker, half of what I should have been, an effect of never alone. I got him there regardless, him eyeing my other self who had left out the door. "Is he going to be okay out there?" I secured his leg, wrapping his thigh tight, right above the blood flow. "He'll be fine," I said distractedly. "He's got some kind of powers too." You could say that." "Fecking hell," he hissed, spittle flying. "Sorry." It was a gruesome sight. It was a jagged flesh wound, sharp claws or teeth had raked against his thigh, taking flesh along with it. Something about being there but not actually being there let me keep my head. The line between controller and observer blurred, and I was unsure if I was either when looking at my clones, looking through them. Perhaps I was both. First, second, third, or just me. I couldn't find myself to care at the moment. I wrapped his wound after cleaning it with a bowl of water, much to his swearing. The sink here worked too. He was holding himself together well by the time I finished. He was sweating, breathing hard, and currently unconscious. I still needed to explore the building. There could be others, and I needed to see the state of the university from a higher vantage. I needed to see exactly how my world had changed. I shut the door and left that clone with him. The other me ascended the building. I managed to make it to the roof without any problems, and there I found my sense of reality shattered. It was, to put it lightly, absolutely insane. The campus I knew was gone. There was a forest where the rest of the campus should have been, trees where the neighboring building was supposed to be. It was like a line drawn right down the front of the science building, and everything past that was something between a swamp and a forest. I looked down, past the plaza, which had been included up until the invisible line, and found murky waters and muddy ground. Vines hung from the trees that would have loomed over the campus. I hadn't noticed it earlier, but it was humid, wet. After taking a complete look around, I went back inside and swept the building again. On the 4th floor, I came upon a gruesome sight, the girl from the lecture. I'd seen her every day for the past 6 weeks. Her eyes were lifeless, dull, dead. Half of her torso was just gone. I suppressed whatever I was feeling. I pushed it down, forced it down. There were bodies everywhere, gored and killed, eaten more often than not. No one else was alive except him. Not in the building, at least. I took his wallet and found his driver's license, then his student ID. I paused at that. It reminded me that we were the same, students caught up in this hell. I could have passed him countless times on campus, but now we were strangers fighting for our lives, surrounded by the dead. I sat there simultaneously securing the building, watching the unconscious man, and hiding away in one of the underground laboratories. I found the humor in that absurd sentence and realized I couldn't stay here. I would need food eventually. That simple, frustrating basic necessity would force my hand and propel me into danger unknown. I would have to leave, strike out, and possibly die. Not without a fight, I muttered downstairs. Hours passed, and I sent Third exploring in the forest, scavenging, exploring, foraging. Another stream of information, invaluable with everything going on. I learned a few things. My clones didn't seem to have the range on them. They could be as far from me as I wanted and would still retain this connection to me. They didn't experience hunger or thirst, but they could eat and drink. The forest was lush with berries and fruits, hanging near the water or high in the branches. I managed to grab some as a shadow darted from under the water, just missing me and subsequently retreating. It made my heart race. I ate some, and it had been a few hours without any side effects. It was a tentative source of food, no matter how unreliable. I explored longer, testing berries and fruits as I went. I climbed a large root, tall enough to oversee the campus. The entire forest was full of them, snaking through the waters. They served as footholds and dry spots to traverse the forest. My elevated position allowed me to see the threat as it descended on the building. I found it to be a group of those ugly green humanoids, that thing I'd found underground in the hallway. They spilled onto the campus, moving around in pairs, scavenging and picking at the remains. Third was my eyes. Second was my feet on the ground. The unconscious man stirred, groaning. Outside, I saw them move towards the science building. In minutes, this would get extremely messy. I'd handled one, just barely, but this much. All of me grimaced. End of chapter. Chapter 5. I stared at the man in front of me, having tied him down with zip ties. We were both in the lab now. My actual self had gone out to help him there. A lone second was too weak. I wouldn't have risked the maneuver without having a set of eyes above that basically functioned as real-time cameras. I had just enough time. I was here, and second and third were out there. So I was both here and there. It hurt my head if I thought about it too much. My clones and I shared the same mind, but even I wasn't clear if it was 3 instances of the same wool or a single puppeteer. My understanding leaned towards something in between. Again, it hurt my head, so I stopped thinking and started thinking. Could I kill? That was the first question. They had tried to kill me, they were openly hostile, and I needed to survive. Yes, I could kill. Did I need to? Considering everything and their numbers, the answer was probably also yes. Then how? I sat underground, safe and sound, as my clones above worked. I directed them as much as they directed themselves, working off what we all knew. My input wasn't even needed, and I couldn't be sure if I thought of the plan or if it had come to all of us at once. Third played Overwatch, Big Brother, the eyes in the sky, the watcher above. So long as he saw it all, I saw it all. Second had to do the fighting, which meant that I had to fight. He would be the boots on the ground, the agent on the field, the hardest job with half my physicality. I grimaced. I couldn't risk my real self. Second stopped by the stairwell and opened another storage closet there. It was like the likeliest place to find any kind of metal implement to use as a weapon. I hadn't searched it earlier, but there it was, a crowbar. For now, it would be good enough. Second waited for any information to become useful. The creatures moved in pairs, and I realized that they checked all boxes for goblin, except worse, grotesque. They moved in pairs, wore simple loincloths, and had claws in both hands and feet, moving about like primates. They could speak to each other, too. I shivered. A spark of intelligence was enough to worry me. They split up into pairs. leaving one alone. The paired goblins stalked around the building, leaving one behind to watch. They were taking it slow, which was exactly what I didn't want. That gave me a single target, outside and alone. The risk was minimal, considering the expendable nature of my clones, but losing second meant that I'd be blind to goings-on the inside of the building. Still, any opportunity to thin their numbers was... "Hey!" The man, Horace, struggled to regain consciousness. "Hey, what the hell?" He stared around and found me sitting. "You're safe, man," I calmed him down. "Why the hell am I tied up?" He tensed against the bonds, wary and hostile, cornered. "We're in the laboratory under the building. And you're tied up because you threatened to blow me to pieces, remember?" I jogged his memory. "I helped clean your leg." His eye slid to his thigh, patched up as best it could be. He relaxed minutely. I'm not going to attack you after that," he said after a moment. "Christ, I was going to die. And I'm not doing this for anything but my safety," I replied, tracking the happenings above. "I have no idea what you can do, but I saw your hand glowing, and I'm trusting you on your threats." Second dashed out as soon as third confirmed the little goblin thing had turned around. I watched myself brain the creature from behind. Its body fell with a muffled thump. The other four were on the other side of the building. I had enough time to drag the corpses near the murky water, and was just strong enough to throw it in, leaving no trace. I'm not going to hurt you, dude," he said, having calmed down. "You can untie me. I'm not stupid enough to attack the only group of survivors." I saddened at that. "There's no one else?" I asked quietly. "I saw them die," he said blankly. His eyes were seeing something else. "Then it went for me and, well," he gestured, tried to, at his leg. "What's your name?" I asked him, though I already knew. "Horace Wakes," he replied. "And you? Where are the others?" Evan winced. I said, "The others are outside." The pair of goblins rounded the building and found their other member missing. They gibbered at each other, looking around questioningly before pointing to the building's entrance. The two of them approached the door, walked through. I was waiting on the other side. I didn't need to hear them to know where they were. I waited for them to fully enter, waited for the right angle. Then I kicked the door shut behind them and swung for the one's head, knocking it out in a pile of flailing limbs. The other one hissed, lunged for me instantly, but I dodged backwards and swung again, smashing its skull in. Two more. Do you see all of this too?" Horace asked, gesturing loosely. Level, class, strength, dex, all of that." "Yeah," I replied, his words confirming I wasn't crazy. It looked like everyone had something similar, if they lived long enough to discover it. The thought was sobering. "What did you get?" he asked pointedly. "There were people with abilities," he grimaced. "I think there were skills. I have one too. I saw someone shoot flames from his hands." "Notice, you have leveled up, level 3. To say I was distracted was wrong. I had my entire attention on the conversation, just as I had my entire attention on the happenings outside. Here, I was having a conversation about the end of the world. Out there, I lived it. "If you don't mind, I'll keep it to myself," I replied, as a claw raked across my back. Horace leaned back, and I brought the crowbar down, breaking bones from the sound of its crunch. The visceral sound of flesh and bone, right in that moment, threatened to overwhelm me, all of me. I'd clubbed them upside the head, but I'd never looked. Now, I had to. I had to fight this living creature struggling against a killer, with an arm that bent the wrong way, bleeding, but alive. Its friend, no. I could not think of them like that yet. I saw a lifeless body in the background, one part of my world moving slowly, defending against the creature I could end with a swing of my weapon. Second threw up, and I screamed, What the feck?" Horace jumped, pressing against the wall. "What the feck's wrong with you?" Fear in his eyes. I groaned, grabbing my eye, realizing I could see, blinking. I was still screaming, not here, but there, bleeding from my eye, crying. My hand was bloodied, my own blood. The crowbar was slick in my grip, but my knuckles were white. "You fucking bastard!" Then I killed the last goblin. I would quickly like to thank the Tier 5 members, Marky, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Oakfield, Lord Azrakul, and It's Difficult to Pronounce. Thank you very much.